this regular meeting of the Planning Commission for February 1st, 2011. Now we call the roll, please.
Yes. Chairperson John Craycraft.
Here.
Vice Chairperson Craig Prestisator.
Here.
Commissioners Ian Elverson.
Here.
Clint Folsom.
Here.
Phil Harden. Joanne Eaton.
Here.
Bob McCool.
Here.
Rochelle Rittmaster.
Here.
Tom Ricker.
Here.
And Attorney Christine Stratisky.
Here.
All right, good. Next item on the agenda is public comments on consent agenda and non-agenda items. If anyone would like to come forward and address the commission, this would be the time to do it on agenda or non-agenda items. Seeing none, we can move on to the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes of September 21st. Is that the last meeting?
Because the meeting we just had was a work session.
It's been a good vacation, right? Other than the work session.
Yeah, it was. I move to approve the minutes, September 21, 2010. Second it.
Motion and a second. Motion by Prestisator, second by Ricker. Any discussion? All in favor? So if you weren't present, or if you weren't present, then you can't vote on that particular. That's okay. So that's 7 and 1 abstention.
Actually, 2, because I was
2.
absent from that meeting. So.
6 and 2 abstentions. Okay. All right, moving on. Item 5 is the discussion regarding Chapter 16 of the Superior Municipal Code regarding the section on mobile homes. Does staff have a presentation?
Yes. Does anybody need copies? All right, make sure everybody has copies of everything. Thank you. So before the Planning Commission tonight is a request to revise the land use code related to standards for mobile homes on individual lots. Mobile homes are currently allowed under the land use code in a residential mobile home district. The problem here is there's currently no properties in town that are zoned residential mobile home. In addition to that, there are currently 21 or approximately 21 mobile homes located in original town that are in a residential low-density district or residential medium-density district. These homes were in place prior to the adoption of the current land use code and as a result are legal non-conforming use since they do not meet the current standards for mobile homes, which is found under 162910 of the land use code. The standards under 162910 for individual lots are as follows. 1, a mobile home must be at least 24 feet wide and 36 feet long. It must be placed on a permanent engineered foundation. It must have a brick, wood, or other equivalent exterior siding and a pitched roof. It must be certified by the National Manufactured Housing Construction and Safety Standards Act of 1974. And it must meet all special provisions adopted by the town regarding snow load, wind shear, and energy conservation. A legal non-conforming use under Article 3 of the Land Use Code, which these fall under, these 21 homes, can have repairs and improvements done to it as long as those do not exceed 50% of the appraised value. Once they exceed that 50% mark, they must be brought up to the current codes of the land use code, which would, for these, would fall under 162910 conditions. The request that's being brought forward would be to allow a property owner with existing mobile home on an individual lot in original town to replace that home with a new mobile home without meeting the standards found under 162910. One exception that Christine and I talked about before the meeting that she found is the fourth condition under 162910 They would still need to meet that due to federal regulations. So if we decide to move forward with this, we'd have to revise the language so that it includes that one provision. And Christine can give you some more information on that if you guys would like. This request would only apply to properties in original town, as all other properties in town are found under a planned development and have their own specific regulations and guidelines. It also would not apply per the way it's structured that we're thinking to vacant lots in original town. This would just be for lots that have current existing mobile homes on them. And so this is just for PC discussion and direction for future action, which would come back to the Planning Commission based on tonight. We included in the packets copies of the 2 sections in the land use code that applied here, as well as a zoning map and a map showing where these mobile homes are and the vacant lots that are found in original town. Christine, do you have anything to add?
I don't have anything to add unless any of you have questions concerning the federal law that preempts state and local law.
And then,
the local jurisdiction can't make laws that are in excess of the federal law, is that correct?
This is actually different. This is, you can't make a law different than the federal law, which is why your code right now just references the federal law.
Got it, okay.
For that one item.
For that one item, correct.
Okay.
You're still allowed to designate a pitch on a roof. You're allowed to designate snow load capacity. So there are certain things that you can regulate, but you cannot regulate any of the requirements that are found in the federal law.
Okay. Since George brought this to the town, the request, George, you want to address the commission on just why you did this and what your thoughts are?
George Kuffner, 109 South 4th. 45 years ago, we started a mobile home park, and it was a designated mobile home park in medium residential in the town of Superior. That's when we done the first zoning laws in the town, and that was in 1975. I've been under the impression that we've been in a mobile home park ever since, and that we could move a mobile home in and out on a foundation, not a foundation, but I mean a mobile home pad, which mobile home pads take in 8, 10, 12, 14-foot wide mobile homes. And the rental pads were original for rental pads. I was told by the town mayor just here recently that we're not designated a mobile home park, and we cannot move a mobile home in and out. And this bothers me quite a bit. It's something we've worked for 40-some years. Find out we ain't got. That was our plans years ago. I would like this non-conforming rule changed, because we were conforming at the time when we put our pads in accordingly, tie downs in accordingly. And if originally we rented pads out. We did not own the mobile homes. Well, over the years, my family has bought the mobile homes, which includes 8 people in that trailer park. And if we wanted to pull one off and rent one, we should be allowed to do that, because we did pay a fee to the town at that time to install these mobile homes. And it bothers me, because this is the reason why, and I want to be right truthful with you. If the town was to go home rule, they could have you remove those trailers within 5 years. And I don't think that's fair and justable to just people that's lived here for 100 years, to say you got to move a mobile home off a trailer. And this can happen because we have some board members that prefer that it goes home rule. And we've tried it twice before and it's failed. But I don't like that hanging over my head, period. None of my family do. So we want this designation changed to a mobile home park in medium residential areas, like we thought we had originally.
So,
Go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
There are kind of mobile homes in different places, so there's some across the street, on Fourth, there's some down on Charles. There's,
Tree on Douglas, there's some other mobile homes in town on single individual lots, okay?
and so are you just requesting that some area be designated as a park, or are you looking to,
We're
do you want-
supposed to be in a park.
well, which area? Every trailer that's in town, or?
No, well,
Or-
that's something you have to decipher. We were to be a mobile home park in a medium residential area. So there, if we wanted to take those mobile homes out, we could revert and build a medium residential
Yeah, and
according to the zoning.
I'm trying to understand what areas you would want, you're requesting to be marked as a park. Is it on every lot that there's a mobile home, or the area up by,
In medium residential. Now, what we do with residential, I don't have an idea. You'll have to figure that out, because we do have
so you're
some
saying that
on
these,
residential lots, single trailers.
Are you thinking, too, that there are empty lots that should be allowed to have a mobile home on them, too,
If they're a mobile home park,
within a park?
sure. We got extra lots up there. If we wish to put mobile homes on, we should be able to put them on there. We've owned them for, I don't know how many, 50, 60, 70 years. But then they were passed on down to the family, and like I said, 45 years ago, we thought we had a designation as a mobile home park in a medium residential area, which is that's the zoning that calls for a park.
and so Matt, based on what I'm hearing, would it, if what George is asking is to have the mobile home park designation in RM, we're talking about a zoning.
We're talking about two different things.
Yeah, we're talking about a
We're
zoning
talking about two
change,
different-
right? Okay.
This wasn't discovered till now?
I've been before the board before. I've been before you, except for maybe a couple, and I've been before that, and I've been before, and they would say we'd do it down the line, do it down the line. Well, it's about the time the line ends, because I'm worried about how this town's going to progress down the road. We have changes with people all the time. We have board changes all the time. And I don't want to be hanging out on the end of a string out there and say, we changed, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. That's like me telling you, if you built your house in 1990, and it was under certain special zoning, and they changed it, and they come and tell you, you got to move your house off of your lot. It is a home to us. It's a home to you. So I should have the same privileges as what everybody else has. And if I want to move and improve my mobile home, move one off and put a new one on there, I should be able to do this. And at the present time, they're telling me I can't do this. We had this happen right over here on the corner across from the White House. His name is Mr. Jameson. He had his home destroyed. It was on a single lot. He paid for the fee to put these mobile home on there and had a fire in it. He went and bought another mobile home the same size. And under this zoning we have, they would not allow him to put another mobile home on there the same size, which was wrong. It cost him $5,000 to go buy another home. Well, he was in a bind, so is what he did. He went down and bought him a double wide and put on there, and he just recently moved that off to another area and put another one on there. But it was a single one to begin with. And I don't like to see that happen to people. If they have a right to their property, they should be allowed to put the same thing back on there. And at the present time, we can't do that. Mr. Jameson was the guy's name over here. I don't know if you were here at the present time
Well, it
when this happened or not.
depends on that. I don't remember it.
Well, I'm just telling you, I do remember quite a bit.
But what I meant is, you weren't aware that it was a grandfathering situation that was going on up till now?
It was supposed to be grandfathered in,
Okay.
period, the way we were.
Well, it is grandfathered in the way
Yeah.
they
The
were.
way they
You
are.
can't make any,
Yeah.
anything that's grandfathered. That's like the land use code of my old house. I couldn't put the additions on. Land use code required that if I touched any portion of the old house, it had to meet code. I had to spend the money to bring it up to code. I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about
Right.
there. My house was grandfathered in as it was.
Right.
It was legal, or non-conforming, legal and non-conforming. Yeah.
And it is conforming now.
So
So we're talking about.
have you looked back? Can you give us a little history on so in the currently newly adopted
Yeah.
land use code,
Yeah.
we adopted this provision, essentially word for word from
Yeah.
the previous version.
Right.
Wasn't, the only thing that was revised on that section was the numbering.
Yeah, okay. And so when, in the previous, at what point was that, either the mobile home zoning taken out to the current residential zoning, or when did that zoning come into effect? Essentially, I'm just trying to get some history. As to
Right.
when,
Yeah.
when at one point they were allowed to put a mobile home on the property, and at some point you weren't allowed to. When did that occur? What time frame?
I don't know the exact date. The current zoning map, I've been here 11 years and it hasn't changed. My assumption is that when the current land use code was adopted, that's when that zoning map was adopted and that's when that occurred.
And when was that land use code adopted? Do you remember?
I think in 93, I remember the date 93 from our discussions about Chapter 16. I remember this question came up at some time during Chapter 16 discussions. And 93 seems to...
Yeah, I don't have it.
I don't know.
I couldn't tell you when it
It's a
changed
date.
either. I was under the assumption that it has been like it originally was to begin with until here recently when I come before the board here and asked for a change and you said, take it to the town board. I mean, this has ain't been too
Yeah.
long ago, within the last year or so,
Right.
when we're working on a land use code.
Yep.
And I took to the town board when they went to pass the final deal, and this is when they said, take it back to the planning commission. So here I am again.
I just wanted to know if there was if at the time of the adoption of the land use code, if there was some discussion about this in the minutes or in, whatever. And I don't know if we have records going, how far back we have records going and all that. But
Yeah,
I guess we get to a public hearing on this issue as part of an amendment or something.
Yeah.
If you guys could research that would be, it would just be useful information.
Okay.
It doesn't mean,
Yeah, we can do
it doesn't mean what they made
It's
some
gonna
decision
be-
way back when and we wouldn't change it. It just,
My-
for information.
My guess is it's going to be close to 2 decades, 20 years old. But we'll find it for you.
So I have 2 or 3 questions around this. Number one, where did we first get this language when we adopted this whole thing? Where did all this language come from to begin with? So that, for example, under mobile homes on individual lots, the requirements are quite different than mobile homes, for example, in a mobile home park. And maybe that's part of what George's issue is in a mobile home park, they seem to be meeting things, and so they're, and I get confused by the term legally non-conforming, because if you're meeting these things, then it seems like you're conforming. So in many ways, it's like he's conforming, but then if you take it back to the verbiage under individual lots, then there's this non-conformance around this permanently engineered
I think
foundation.
Christine has some information too, but the main distinction there is George's properties are found in either residential low density or medium density. They're not found in this mobile home zone district, which is where you would find
Right.
the regulations you're talking about that.
But isn't that
But was there-
isn't that curious
And
that
was there
the
ever
requirements
was there ever a
are
mobile home
different?
zone district?
I don't know, not that I'm aware of, but George
That's what I was getting at.
He remembers one, but
It was supposed to be a mobile home district when we were zoned way back in 1975. That's how come that we got to put the mobile homes we have in there now. There's about 14, 15 mobile homes in that 2 blocks up there.
They're not clustered all together.
no,
As
there's
you stated, there's
No,
they're
there's
kind of spread around now too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few here, a few there. There's a bunch.
the majority of them are found in that block just
Them 2
west
blocks.
of Fourth.
Yeah.
And Christine has some.
I can address the language found in 162910, numbers 1 through 4, tracks this definition of manufactured home found in the state statute that limits your ability to exclude manufactured or mobile homes from the town. So under the definition section in that statute, under manufactured homes, it's number 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's the definition under state statute of manufactured home.
So that allows them to put a manufactured home on a residential lot per the zoning?
And there's blurred lines between a manufactured and a mobile home.
Right,
It's how much of it is built in a factory versus on-site.
right.
And what the statute does is limit a statutory town's ability to exclude manufactured or mobile homes from the town.
Okay.
But essentially, we don't have any designation for something like that.
For a strict mobile home?
For a strict mobile home park,
Park,
We do.
no.
No properties in town with that zone.
that's what I was getting at.
So let me ask this then. The other concern I'm hearing from George is this possibility that even if we try to codify something similar to maybe what was being proposed by town staff, that may not feel like enough protection given a statutory versus home rule town.
What, and
And I'm trying to understand,
Christine will probably correct me on this, but I think no matter what we do here tonight, when we go through the home rule charter, we can change whatever we do tonight.
well, but, so that's what George's concern
That's
is.
what George's
that-
concern.
But
that-
even if we designate him a mobile home area and do all that, it still can be changed.
Well, then change my zoning.
It can be changed.
There is-
Everybody's zoning.
It's everybody's concern if we go home rule, because everything
All
can
hands
change,
are off.
not just George's mobile homes.
Right.
I mean,
Right, yeah.
not that we would, I mean, as a town, hopefully, we'll
what
we'll figure out the right
A lot of
thing,
it,
and as a planning
obviously,
commission, we'll be part of it, but.
And
Right.
I'm not going to, but.
just to put it on the record, this current board has they've had no discussions about even discussing home rules, so.
And it's a big, scary thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot. It's a
Yeah.
big job.
But basically what you're saying is true, that even if we say, okay, you can have this, you can have that, home rule can change it at its will.
Right.
It's still not a complete safety net.
Okay. There's a.
So, go ahead.
I was just going to make a distinction, I guess, between a mobile home and a manufactured home. And there's no distinction as to when you wheel it on the site, I guess, right? It's really, for us, it comes down to how it's set as well, right? I mean, the current law rule, or in the code requires us to requires that a homeowner would place it on a foundation,
Permanent.
permanent foundation, right? And it has to be at least 24 feet wide,
Right.
and so on. So the
And a pitched roof.
and it has a pitched roof, right? And it meets what any other.
Pretty much rules out most mobile homes.
Yeah, well, I don't even know if they really make them like that
Right.
anymore. I mean,
Yeah. that's what-
they make them still on wheels so that you can bring them on site, right? And you can set them, as George is describing, in a park where you tie it down and you skirt it, and right?
Take the wheels
You
off.
take, yeah, you take the
Yeah,
tires
put on
off, and
blocking
then,
tie it down.
right, you tie it down and all that. So that's, and versus a manufactured home where it is arriving on a trailer or on its own
Skids.
on wheels or on skids or whatever, and then it's it's craned into place and set onto the foundation, and then the seam is repaired by or installed by the crew, and the house is done, right? But 90% of it, 95% of it was actually completed in the factory.
Right.
Correct.
So, and at that point, it's essentially not unlike any other structure. I mean, they're still built to code, and they have their stick frame construction. And all that. So, I just threw that out there. So I guess everybody knew we were kind of talking about the same things. And I'm not sure you could. Well, if you went and bought one and took one off, you'd be getting one that could be set on a foundation. It's designed that way, or it could be set.
Right.
It could be just, set, tied down, and skirted.
On a pad.
On a pad, right.
Where a foundation you have to tear out according to what mobile home you back in there and put on there, on that pad.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a difference right there. And
Right.
the way it is now, it says that you gotta have a foundation. So I want a designation changed to a mobile home
Yet
park.
in a mobile home park, it
So we
doesn't
can
require that,
pull one
right?
off and put one on without having to build a foundation of it.
Right.
And go ahead and skirt it and tie it down like we have previously. We've been there for 40 years now, a lot of it. So we've done it proper, we got proper tie downs and everything, but I can't see putting a foundation under, when you pull one off, you put one on and you try to improve yourself, go from a 10 to a 12 or whatever. And they all tie down, their pads are all set, so that can be done. It was
That's
done
nice.
45 years ago. And I've been under the impression, we've been in a mobile home park, and if I wanted to improve my home that I live in there, I could pull it off and put another one on. And according to, now I'd have to put a foundation under it and all kinds of stuff. Through all kinds of hoops, and I don't want that anymore in my age. Period, to run a bunch of hoops that I thought I already had. So there's a difference,
Yeah, and everything we got, I mean, we were looking at, talking about maybe doing some grandfathering in and some on individual basis type stuff. So
And that's
I guess the whole mobile home park designation thing is kind of
well,
blindsiding a little bit as
Yeah.
to George not saying that what he really wants is to be able to swap one in and swap one out, which to me is a grandfather situation versus making something a mobile home designation where even if there wasn't one, if that area was designated mobile home, they could bring one in.
Right. Yeah. So in my discussions with George originally, it was let's see if we can come up with something to where we revise the non-conforming situations section of the code so that a homeowner who has a mobile home on there that's on blocking and ties would be allowed to take it off and bring a new one on and just put it on blocking and tie downs. So they would have that option.
Would that
And we didn't discuss until maybe it was yesterday the whole concept of this rezoning. You'd be rezoning certain properties in town to a mobile home park. I think this language that we're thinking about for the non-conforming situations section of the code gets George what he's looking for without having to go through the rezoning process. But he has concerns
Right.
about.
could that grandfathering be limited to sort of a life lease or something where the current owner is allowed to do this, but at some point, if the property's conveyed to another party, that zoning, that grandfathering or that right would cease to exist, so that someone who lived in town could. I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not.
Some type of sunset on that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But then what would it revert to? Would it revert back to legal non-conforming as it was today, or would it be, no, you can't have a mobile home on there anymore, or, I mean, where...
I don't know what it would be. I'm just asking this particular question. I guess, in theory,
I think it would revert back to the way the code currently reads, to where the new property owner, if they make exceed 50% in appraised value repairs or improvements, they would have to bring it up to code.
But then but that's based on the new, whatever they happen to have in there at that time, which
Right.
gets a little
So you have to
weird.
Yeah.
establish a valuation at that point? I don't know.
So one of the things I see it when I look at this, and when I'm thinking of, some of these property owners who have been here for many, many decades, and the different potentials that they have for their properties. And so, for example, right now, you have some mobile homes that are on pads that's in a medium-density setting. It seems to me that if you hold them to this Section 162910, and particularly that item 2 on permanent engineered perimeter foundations, that now you're almost setting up a situation that then in perpetuity, you're going to end up with mobile homes because of expense and, all sorts of things that now point to you've got to have permanent foundations here, rather than the flexibility that says maybe over time they'll want to take portions of that area that's now mobile homes and maybe take an area that's, equivalent to 4 of those and say, this is medium-density residential and we'd like to build a duplex. But gee, we don't want to do it because we've plowed tens of thousands of dollars into putting these foundations in that would all have to be ripped. So it seems like this, when we, and again, I know that you're trying to find language so that they're not held to some of this, but this is some of what comes to mind to me, is the limitation of future flexibility that they probably should have. But yet, then it gets complicated, because then if you try to rezone as a mobile home park, then now you've got less flexibility to take certain portions back out because you want to,
essentially, if you put in a foundation, you've built a house, right? You've just built a house. And so if you're going to make changes to it, you're going to have to do what any other homeowner would have to do to modify the house, whether you wanted to make it a duplex or something. You know what I'm saying?
Right, but what I'm saying is, by applying this requirement to the situation that George and others may have, that forces placing these foundations in a way that maybe accommodates that manufactured home, but now doesn't accommodate some other kind of redevelopment that would have been there. But if we're still working with just pads, then you still have flexibility, and you haven't involved a lot more new costs.
For future land use.
For
Yeah,
future land
and that's
use.
something else to consider here, the future land use, because I believe, George, it's the trust, correct me if I'm wrong, the trust has it for those properties for sale?
Yes.
Based on the medium-density residential zoning. So, somebody comes in and they are able to work out a sale for medium-density residential, you'll see that whole area potentially change.
Yeah, demo's cheap.
Yeah, demo is cheap.
Well, so I mean,
Demo to knock out,
if you
pull
change
a
the zoning to mobile home
foundation
park,
out that was put in for a manufactured home is between that and a pad, couple hours, couple trucks. I mean, I don't equate that to being a stoppage for somebody wanting to improve the property. Now, yes, the person who originally put it in has the expense. I mean, that's a choice they made to do. And then if they choose to do something later, then the numbers have to be there for them to make that choice. I mean,
But that's a non-grandfathered situation you're talking about?
On the new foundation?
On having to establish a new foundation. I mean, if George wanted to change out a mobile home now,
Oh, no, I'm agreeing with that aspect of we should look at that. I'm not following your train of thought in saying that there's this big expense that now, because you put in a
foundation.
full foundation, that now it's going to prohibit somebody from coming in there and building medium-density housing. It's not an expense that's...
well, I'm thinking of that.
the reality is that
the
I'm
home-
thinking of it that it's the same person who had to put in that foundation,
But
who would then.
What I'm saying is
That's
that
an
the
economic
home that
decision.
you built, that you put in with the foundation, is now a medium density residential house, right? I mean, you basically built a house, right? You just happened to build it in a factory and set it on the foundation when it was done, but
Which is why in your code, if you want to take a legal non-conforming use in a residential low or residential medium and keep a mobile home there, you're asking those property owners to put a permanent foundation in to make it more like the rest of the housing found in
yes.
in residential medium or residential low.
So another aspect that we haven't brought up, so I'm kind of hung up these days on we always look at what's in front of us and forget about what's behind us, right? And so I think it's important to understand and remember that there are things going on in original town, homes being purchased, expansions being done, and they are based on our existing land use. And if we are looking to make changes to that land use, we can't forget about the people who have made investments in the neighborhood based on today's land use code. And if we go making changes without at least, somewhat involving the people who are involved, then, I mean, I don't think we're being fair to the people who've invested in this neighborhood in the last, whatever it's been, 20 years since this code has been adopted. And so I think I just want to be cautious that how far we go, and I mean, if somebody has invested in an area near the mobile home park, knowing that these mobile homes can't sit here forever, someday they're going to have to go, and I'm willing to invest now, because someday they're going to fall down and code says they can't be replaced, but now we're going to come in and say, well, yeah, they can. And so for all intents and purposes, that could be a mobile home for another 50 or 75 years. So just don't want to lose sight, and not that prevents us from doing anything, but I don't want to forget about the people, the other people who are impacted by any changes that we make. So.
Sure. Okay. Anyone have any other ideas, questions, comments?
Oh, a couple things. I think we can rule out any. I mean, I don't know if we can rule it out, but it would be a considerable amount of work to consider doing a mobile home park request, because first we would have to have a zoning change to R-ML, and then there'd have to be a submission to request a mobile home park within an R-ML zoning. That's a big deal. So we can't get mobile home park zoning easily. It certainly isn't going to happen in this meeting, I'm guessing. Right?
Well, no, any change is going to go before a public hearing anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but that, I mean, we should probably decide whether, because George is bringing up this interest in mobile home park designation, I'd like to make sure George has some idea of what we're thinking. I mean, it would be good to see if we can rule in or rule out whether we want to go down the road of creating a mobile home district in town, because that's going to require a zoning change for some area to R-ML, and then the owner, I guess, would have to submit a request and would have to build a park that conforms to our code, right, for a mobile home park district. So I would imagine that's a 6-month to a year-long process, and George is going to have to be heavily involved in the legal aspects of making all that happen. and conforming to whatever we require a mobile home district within RML to
And
be.
any other property owners affected.
So,
And yes, any of the property owners.
yeah, so if George wants that, I guess maybe if you'd like, if you're interested in doing that, then I think that's a different request, and I'd like to hear that.
I
but-
just want something simple to protect my family, okay? I want to be able to move a mobile home on the pads that we have right now and move one out.
Okay.
If I want to move my mobile home out and put a new one in, that's what I want to do.
Okay. So
Just like you added onto your property there.
Yes. And
You want to improve it? You did.
I did.
And-
I had to
and-
conform to land use code to do it, but yes, I
And
agree.
years ago, they seen, 1988, that you could build across two lots so you could do your building.
Right.
All I'm asking is being fair about it, to know where I stand in this town, that I can move a mobile home in without having to put it on a foundation.
So
I don't need to want to go to all expense of what you're talking about.
I agree with you. and
40 miles.
so
I've been here 70 years, you know?
So I agree with you, George. I don't think that's what you wanted, but one, I wanted you to say it because we were talking terminology earlier. You were talking about mobile home park district, and so I
Mobile
think-
home park is supposed to be in a medium residential area
Well,
right now.
but
That's the
it's-
zoning that it carries.
But it's not, and so
Because there's more than one family that lives on the properties, okay?
But we don't have an RMLL, so I'm truly I'm on your side, and I'm trying to think about what you've got and what you're trying to accomplish.
You know what I got.
We have to do it within. It has to be done within the existing code and within the existing law, and so I'm just want to make sure that you, as best we can, help you understand what is allowed to be done, so we can try to figure out how to do whatever it is we can do. And I just want to rule out any discussion about a mobile home park district, because we don't have that zoning in town. It doesn't exist today, and it would be a big deal to change it, and I don't think you want to go through that.
No, I don't.
Right.
I just want something simple.
So that's done and that's gone, and we don't have to even worry about that anymore, and so.
What I heard you say was you thought that there always was.
That's very true. That's what I
So
mean.
What I would be
Mobile-
what I'd be interested to know is, did it ever exist, and when did it go away, and what was the process for? why
Had to
it went
exist.
away?
I got it, the mobile home park there.
Well,
But it
Well,
may
you may have been able to just
years
set a
ago.
mobile home on the
It
lot.
may have- right, there
because
may have been no-
there
there
wasn't
may have
enough
been no
land use
law.
code. There wasn't a code related to what you could put on the lot or not.
when this comes back, if it comes back, we'll have that information.
Yeah.
I just want some simple wording where I don't have to build a pad for each mobile home I move in and out, a foundation. I want to be able to put them on the pads that I have that is already prepared for it without a lot of problems. So just change the wording there. Non-conforming that bothers me because, like I said, changes can be made to everybody if home rule would happen to come in. And here I am, 45 years later, find out I ain't got nothing I've worked for all my life. That's the same way you're working for your home. You know, it is your home. These are our homes, and it's low income family living. That's all it amounts to. You know, really
But it was
simple.
But it was always your intention to put a replacement mobile home, we'll talk about, on the same size pad that you currently have built today at those sites.
That's correct.
No expansion, no change, no enlarging the footprint, nothing.
No,
Just the
on
same
pads-
exact-
On the pads that we have, we're set up on the lots that you could replace it with a different mobile home and improve it. Because they get older, and they,
Right.
just like home does, you know. And I've been thinking about changing mine, and this is why it come up. I've had it for, well, I don't know, since 1973, 74, way back. And
George, would you want to put just a brand-new one replacement, or
Well, it
would
would-
you buy a used one?
It could be a used one, newer one. Let's put, mine's a 63. It would be newer, anything new, an improvement.
And so what are the implications of that? So, I mean, if so he has a 1963 trailer and he goes out and he buys a, I don't know, 1976 trailer. Do we have other parts of our code that come into play there? Because, does it has to meet some does it have to meet any standards?
today.
Right.
right?
If you replace it, it has to meet these standards today.
Right.
So when he brings in a new one, it
Yeah,
has to meet.
the the
Well-
National Manufactured Housing Association requirements.
Okay.
I mean,
It's based on the current code.
So if we're looking at
House,
purely
yeah.
eliminating items 2, the installed on a permanent and engineered foundation, and potentially item 3, because I don't quite know, I mean, can somebody define what a cosmetically equivalent exterior siding to brick and wood is? And because you look at a 1982 mobile home that's in better shape, and does it have cosmetically equivalent exterior siding to wood or brick?
Manufactured stone, maybe.
Well, so I'm wondering, do we have to eliminate, would you have to eliminate number 2 and number 3 if we want to accommodate a used trailer?
It'd be 1 through 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're not necessarily 24 by 36 minimum, are they?
Well, yeah, we'd have to
George?
eliminate number 1, right? So
Yeah.
these are 12.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So 1 through 3, possibly 5. So the main one that you have left is item 4.
Right.
But you can't touch anything.
And so are we,
Yeah, which we can't touch.
and what are we getting ourselves into from a safety standpoint if we start messing with 5?
Well, some
Is
some
that
municipalities, if I understand correctly, and maybe you can clarify this or not, have decided that if you must replace it with a new one as opposed to a used one. And I don't know that we've addressed that particularly, and I don't know that I would care to either way, but just threw that out there. And I don't know if you've researched that at all or not.
So
Because then it's meeting, if you're requiring someone to replace it with a new one, then you know it's met the current manufactured housing code
Right, yeah.
standard, as opposed to one that was built 5, 10, 15 years ago. You
That might not.
you know, it might not, right?
So if you're keeping that standard, they'd have to support with proof that they were meeting the federal standard before they got the
I would
permit or
Well, you
whatever
find-
to move it in there.
You find a lot of foreclosures right now on newer mobile homes and
Yeah.
parks, and if I want to go buy one of them, I should be able to go buy one, and because it meets specifications for another park. I'm not going to build a trailer on that pad. I'm going to go buy one that's better than the one I got.
I imagine they have serial numbers you can trace or
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
sticker
Yeah.
certifications on the side of it that say
Sure.
that it's met these standards. So I think what Bob was kind of mentioning was if we keep 4, as far as liability, as far as the town goes, that's all we need. If we're meeting those federal standards, then we're not open to any kind of liability, we're not really messing with standards to say that we're allowing somebody to put something that's not safe.
Except there are the Standards Act also gives some flexibility into the local jurisdiction for things like wind load, snow loads, and other tie down requirements or whatever, to ensure that it complies with the local regional
Well,
things. So
yeah.
you couldn't necessarily go buy one from
Florida,
Arizona
Arizona.
that doesn't meet the snow load requirements of Colorado, right? There's some standards that we still need to apply locally.
Wind and snow, we have,
Yeah.
we have to have,
Yeah.
especially where these are placed.
So
And then the other piece to this,
We would just only stick to item 4 necessarily.
You would want to retain then, from what I'm
Right.
understanding, number 5.
Yes.
we would probably have to retain number 5. And then, this also indicates mobile homes placed on individual platted lots. So are all of your trailers 1-to-1, and tell me if this is important, 1-to-1 on an individual platted lot, or do you have platted lots that have 3 trailers on them?
Yeah, I was going to ask the question if
One trailer on one lot.
you don't have multiple trailers.
So if I look at this,
They're not all on single lots, Bob.
they are or they're not?
They're not all
They're
on
not,
single
they're not.
lots. No.
Okay.
I got 2 lots across, for example, I got 2 lots across the street from you. I got 4 trailers.
Yeah, so is that an issue is that at issue with our code because of the way it reads? So he's legal, non-conforming,
right.
if we
The
start
density is
messing with
higher than the
this,
single-family.
are we getting
Well,
into
those
that
are
first paragraph
medium-
of this that says mobile homes placed on individual platted lots? Because that's not what we have.
Well, single-family, low density is 1 unit, 1 lot. Medium density is up to 6 units. Is the density for medium. So, and George's property is in the medium density residential, so we'd have to look at that.
But we don't have we don't have zoning for medium density trailer placement,
We don't
mobile
have
home,
density for any trailer placement.
for any placement.
Right.
So,
Correct.
so we're so just trying to think of all the things we have to address
Yep.
to make this
Yep, yep.
happen.
Okay.
Are the current units out there also this 24 feet wide? Are they 24 feet wide?
No.
Or not?
No, that's a double wide, right?
Down there, it's on a single lot, it's 24.
Okay.
It was put on there, was moved from over here. But, well, there's another one also on another private lot that belongs to my brother, 24 on a foundation, but they're on foundation.
Okay.
They are on foundation on individual lots.
Okay.
But the other ones are not.
Or not?
They're mobile homes that you can remove and replace with other mobile homes.
And if we do this, can we be restrictive as to where, or are we faced with if we let George do it, then we have to let everybody do it? And what impact does that have? And if people don't have trailers, or they have the empty lots that we're dealing with, are we setting ourselves up to have to deal with somebody wanting to come in, like on 302 here on Maple Street, because we've allowed that right? Are we permitting that right for somebody to come in and drop 6 trailers on lot number 302 there in the northwest corner? Well, so
The other legal option here.
I agree. I wouldn't want it to, but we precedent. I mean, we had these issues with precedent about the house placement here and how it was positioned, and the mayor was all concerned about precedent. So, if we're setting precedent, I mean that's certainly important, because it gives somebody anybody can come up here and say, okay, you let so and so do such and such. I'm not really asking for anything different than what you allowed George to do. Can I do that too? And so whether it's the new ones or whether it's these existing little individual ones that are sitting around, are we going to allow that for those areas as well? So
As your
just
code
all
is
things that have to
written-
be dealt with.
As your code is written right now, 162910 would cover your hypothetical situation of the, or not so hypothetical, of the empty lots.
Okay.
Okay, because there's nothing on there. Whereas the non-conforming use section, the 1630 or 16.3, 16.3 covers the situation of an existing non-conforming structure wanting to be replaced. So, and I guess short answer to your question, no, you wouldn't necessarily be opening up the ability of empty lots to now have tied down mobile or manufactured homes on them, because they would have to still conform with the permanent foundation requirement found in the code.
But existing, but
Existing,
any other
but it would
existing-
open up for
Yeah,
other
it would open up.
existing mobile homes that are not on permanent foundations to be removed and replaced and tied down.
So if the intent of the town at the time that this was all done was to turn this into a low or medium residential and low residential foundation-based neighborhood, we are
Permanent structure.
permanent structure neighborhood. We're being asked to change that. I mean that so again.
The other legal option to an individual who had a situation like this would be to apply for a variance, right? As well, right? For their specific need.
Variances are difficult, though.
I didn't say they were easy. I just
Well,
yeah,
it's enough.
It's not nothing's a given, right?
Well, we have some precedent on variance, right here in town. So we turned a lot sideways, and we permitted the use of a tap on a different lot. I mean, we
Well, that was a minor re-subdivision.
was that wasn't a variance?
No.
Okay.
Minor subdivision.
What was that again? That was a
Minor subdivision,
okay.
lot line adjustment.
Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, or comments on this? All right. I mean, I think this was a good discussion. I think it may lead to some, some recommendation from staff or from George or
Yeah.
some sort of change in the. I'm not sure we came to consensus on anything, and I'm not sure this is the appropriate time to try to come to consensus. I think we should do that in front of a public hearing, so I'm trying not to
Well-
push too many opinions forth right at the moment.
Based
But
on
I-
our discussion, I think what staff's going to go back and do is we'll go back, take a shot at revising the language for non-conforming situations, that article. Come back with additional information as far as the zoning map adoption, if that was ever in place, mobile home parks, and when it changed, and those dates, and whether there was any discussion related to that. And then the issue with regard to medium-density residential, multiple trailers on single lots, and have information for you on that. Any other, something I missed?
Just my notion about the
Grandfathering in.
well, sort of as I said, the life lease type of
Oh, right,
scenario where
Assumption.
you might allow a current landowner's a right to do this until such time as the property be conveyed.
And could
something.
we, or,
Right? I
and
mean,
taking
how
that,
that
take that a step farther, could we do it in such a way that we're able to evaluate these on a case-by-case basis and maybe even set a little bit of criteria so that we're careful that where there is kind of a group of mobile homes where this is asking to be done could be treated differently than the individual mobile homes that are near permanent structures, and
Well-
set some criteria so that we're not
I
having
guess
to-
I guess the other point I would make is I think I'm very much in support of a variety of housing types in town, and I think that's I think that's a healthy thing for a town to have different types of housing options. But I do think that in this case we should maybe make a distinction too between property that is owner occupied versus rented out. And I don't know whether we can legally do that or not, but I guess what I'm saying is if there was, I'm sympathetic to someone who's lived in town for many years and wants to stay, and their option is to do, would be to swap one out. That's fine, but if it's for the purposes of gaining a rental stream or something, I just assume, I guess my personal opinion would be
But
that home becomes,
that's what these guys are doing, though. I mean, that's
well,
there are.
I
mean,
yeah.
they're driving some of
That's
their
what I'm saying. I don't know if there's a
income by this,
distinction
so-
or not.
Yeah.
I kind of have in my head maybe there should be a distinction, but I don't know.
I mean, I think if you want to provide a
I'm talking
housing,
about that life lease kind of idea. You know what I mean?
yeah, but if you're wanting to provide for housing like that,
Right.
you're
Diversity.
It's highly unlikely you're going to have owner occupied. That's highly unlikely to be an owner occupied situation. I mean,
Right.
that type of housing is typically rental, and it's fairly migrant. I mean, people are. I mean, you're seeing quite a bit of turnover in those. So I sort of feel like those conflict. I mean, what
They may,
so.
right?
Yeah.
Because you got there's give and take in the world, right? So I don't know.
Yeah.
Just my.
Well, at some point, if economics dictate that the land is worth more than having a trailer on it, the trailer will go.
That's correct.
I mean,
Well,
it's-
By
and
natural
clearly
market-
it
natural
does,
market
Right.
and it's up for
movements.
sale, and there's going to come a day where, I mean, even these guys won't be able to resist the offer they're
Right.
going to get.
So, I mean, but we're talking about, well, we don't want this to go on in perpetuity. And basically,
Huh?
economics will.
I know you have so far,
economics
Gus.
will
A day
dictate
will
that it
come.
won't. I mean, at some point.
Yeah, no, I
At some
know.
point, that trailer that's on it, not going to be worth it to anybody, and a manufactured home would bring a much better dollar. So it will just happen.
Okay. Any other points of discussion?
What's the next step, so George knows what, I mean, if
I think
he's,
Matt was just explaining.
okay.
Yeah, so
Are you bringing that forth as some recommendation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll schedule a public hearing and have a formal recommendation, and I'll get together with George and go over that and
Okay.
and bring it back to the planning commission.
Okay. If no more discussion on that, we'll move on to item 6 of the agenda, staff announcements and miscellaneous.
Yeah, the main one is the next meeting, we are planning on having a presentation on the Jefferson Parkway. And notify the public like we usually do. Entertain questions from the public and just have a general discussion. And I think you'll probably have a majority of the board members here as well for that discussion, so.
And who's giving that presentation?
Our traffic consultant,
Oh,
Alex
okay.
Arnell.
So will he have completed whatever studies he's looked at
Probably not.
at that point?
No, but he'll have, hopefully, some of the information updated, be able to relay that in his presentation, but it won't be completed. We still have to get information from the authority, the Jefferson Parkway Authority, that we haven't received yet, so. He's been talking with their traffic consultants, and, but the Parkway just authorized the purchase of the right-of-way for Indiana. So, they're moving ahead. Plus, they did a bidders conference, and they're in the process of selecting a private company.
A design
Build the-
build contractor or
Yep.
something? And I assume that they've got some preliminary information too on exits and so on as to where they would be placing exits
Yeah.
that would affect Highway 128 McCaslin and all that.
Yeah, and we'll have that for that night. But the main concern is the one on Indiana, and it's about a half a mile south of 128 on Indiana, in that area. So,
That would be the primary exit that would affect the town of Superior.
right.
So it all stays on private land, it doesn't affect the Rocky
Yeah.
Flats thing?
Just the right of way that they would purchase
Okay.
along Indiana there. For it.
And the current thought is that they following Indiana south to approximately Highway 72 and then heading west again and then connecting up with the right of way at Highway 93.
Yep. And the interesting thing is, the Jefferson Parkway Authority is separate from the Northwest Parkway, two different entities. So what you have is the Northwest Parkway ends at its current location, which is just
Louisville.
north of 36.
Right.
Then you jump on local roads, and what's 95th or 96th, Interlochen Drive, I think it is. Go through that up to 128, and then get back on the Jefferson Parkway toll road and continue on. There's no
Wasn't Jefferson Parkway though talking about
continuous-
doing some improvements on Interlochen Parkway or something? Is that part of the
and they haven't
the
ruled
discussion?
it out, but the cost right now is prohibitive.
Yeah, that'd get developed.
Yeah, we got a mall in between the two. And an office park. So,
But they're going to be economically incented to limit the time at stoplights and stuff because otherwise people are going to go, I'm not driving on this crazy
Right.
thing. Why would I do that?
Right.
If they're backed up for 10 minutes trying to get through, lights on Interlochen.
I was going to say, so they're going to go through Interlaken?
Yes.
Follows that same line.
Oh, I'm sure they're going to be delighted in Interlaken, aren't they?
Well,
And
it's been
I know.
they, even without that continuous connection, that disruption at Interlochen, they still, moving forward, think that the financials work out for them to build it. So it'll be a good conversation on the future. So hopefully everybody can make it.
great.
And they're talking 50 cents a mile, right? So that was probably the number.
I don't
This is in our work.
know.
So
They're saying how much more?
I've been hearing 50 cents a mile.
would be the toll.
Costs me more to go ski it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, the Northwest is $2.25 per toll as you go through.
It varies a little bit, but yeah, $2.25
Yeah,
it does.
It's like 650 or
Yeah, I
7
think it's
now.
3 tolls.
3 tolls.
to get 3 tolls
Get
to
to
the
DIA.
airport. Yeah, it's like 7, 8, yeah, 15, 16 miles.
And the big driver, as far as development goes, is this Calderas development in Jefferson County, which is just south of Rocky Flats.
Across from 5 Parks, so.
So,
Okay. Anything else? Any other staff announcements? Two?
unless you have questions.
Okay. I think that's it. Okay, we're done.